Hello, this is Paul Chek. Welcome back to yet another of my many video blogs. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that I think is extremely important. It's talked about a lot. It's debated a lot. Many people are very confused about it, and it's very important, which is raw food, eating raw food. So the title of my presentation today is R for resource, A for autonomy, W for wisdom. Resource, autonomy, wisdom food. Resource because your food is a very essential resource. You got breath, without which you'll be dead very quickly. You got water, without which your life becomes shitty very quickly. And you've got food, which is what you build your body out of. And as my dad used to say, you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit, which means if you're eating too much cooked food, denatured, processed, packaged stuff, then you get to wear the symptoms of feeding a body inferior molecules or resources, which is sad for me because, in my opinion, in many ways it exemplifies a lack of awareness of the absolute amazing mystery and the gift of the human body. I mean, the human body is mind-bogglingly amazing, and to be able to have the opportunity to be here, think of how amazingly, phenomenally, inconceivably grand and massive the universe is. And to be able to be alive and look out at all of it, even the stuff we call ugly, is still amazing. And you know it for sure because people watch death and destruction and starvation, and the more radical it is, the more hits you get on your website and the more popular the television show is. It's all part of the grand theme. It's the grand majesty, the magic show of it all. But when your body's not healthy, you don't actually see what's really going on. You don't comprehend what's really going on. You get trapped in yourself and you begin to project your own fears and your own biases and your own emotions out onto the world. And then it starts to look like the world is shitty, but what people don't realize is actually that they're projecting their own inner imbalance out onto the world. I can assure you from coaching countless numbers of people through diseases and all sorts of challenges that the healthier a person gets, the less negatively affected they are by the issues of the world. And the more spiritually evolved a person gets, the more empathy they have for people and the circumstances of the world, because this is the gym of spiritual growth and development, or self-realization. We're used to going to the gym to build our body, but we must remember that building a body without building a relationship with your soul and a connection to the mystery of it all is really just to build a bigger cage for yourself. So food is extremely important because its effects are demonstrable in our psyche, in our body, in our emotions, and in our mind, in our thinking processes, in our way of relating to the earth. Many of the problems that we have with issues of food are the, shall we say, extension of the Industrial Revolution, the extension of the information age. Both of those concepts rise above the earth. The Industrial Age was about conquering the earth and getting the oil out of the ground and cutting the trees down and pulling the minerals out of the earth and building shitloads of cars and things out of metal and so on and so on and so on. So it was really just like torturing the garden that feeds us and being ignorant to the fact that all the poisons are coming right back to us, and we're killing our food supply, we're killing our air supply, we're killing our water supply. Then we go into the information age, and now we're cut off at the head, and ideas and concepts are more real than actual experiences. And you can see that. Just look at how people behave on forums like YouTube, Facebook, etc. And they talk back and forth in the rudest, most unbelievably childish ways because they're somehow disconnected from the individual. Therefore, they can slag and jab and do all this stuff, but they're not connected to the actual experience of a relationship. It's that person's over there, I'm over here, bomb the bastard. These are all behaviors that are taking us up further into our head and further away from the earth. And as I've said in previous blogs, it's a shock to me when you see a guy like Jamie Oliver traveling around the world showing school kids flashcards, and they can identify almost every single corporate symbol, but they can only identify 50% of common farm animals and foods. There you go. Our children are now cut off at the head. So we now actually have this relationship to food like we do with combs, hair dryers, televisions, radios, phones, gasoline. People are looking for the cheapest food that'll last the longest, so they have to do the least work, which results in having the least level of actual intimate relationship with what the food is, where it comes from. I tell my students all the time that are eating too much meat, which is a lot of them, if you want to learn to eat less meat, go participate in the slaughter of an animal. Watch it bleed. Watch it die. Watch it leave all of its relationships behind so you can hopefully not continue your unnecessary gluttony, etc. We have all these ideas about genes this, about biochemistry that. We're so smart we now make plants that produce their own pesticides and eat them, which is just, you know, it reminds me of something that Richard Dawkins said in his book, The Selfish Gene. He said, memes, which means ideas, have no respect for genes. So when we start believing a lot of the ideas, but are so in love with ideas that we're not paying attention to the garden called our body, that's a sign of decreasing intelligence, decreasing awareness. But as I shared in my last blog, it's also an opportunity for enlightening awareness and legitimate personal, professional, and spiritual growth. So today I want to share some concepts and opinions that are very much in line with what I teach in my holistic lifestyle coaching program. These are just little snippets. The programs are comprehensive, and I show you how to tie it all together into a working system. So don't make the mistake, as I often say, of thinking just because you're watching my blogs, you're getting my HLC training. It's night and day. What I'm sharing with you here is just little sound bites that hopefully you can use in your life. But trust me, when you learn how to put it all together and how to eat, sleep, breathe, and shit it, then you're trained properly. Until then, keep practicing, and the healthier you get, the more likely you are to be able to understand me when I actually give you the training. So let's take a look at some of the essential reasons for eating raw food. First of all, raw food should be organic, as should all food. But remember, we are using something along the lines of over 2 billion pounds of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and rodenticides, of which come from 2 major classes, neurotoxic and estrogenic, which means these fat-soluble chemicals that are sprayed on plants commonly all over the world and are eaten by the animals. When you're buying commercially raised non-organic meat, you're eating highly concentrated toxins, which they store in their fat and even in their meat. When you're eating that stuff, you're poisoning your body. So raw food is a good idea, but eating raw food that has been poisoned and comes from deficient soils is really just eating a slightly better form of junk, i.e. the same food cooked, and leads to just as many health problems. And whenever we buy any food that is not organic, we are contributing with our own money to the complete and utter destruction of our soils. And right now we're running out of topsoil, and it takes something like a couple of million years to make 1 inch of topsoil. So, you know, we're all facing some real wake-up calls here, but if we keep eating foolishly and putting our money in the hands of the very people that most of us that are even aware enough to think about raw food keep complaining about, then we're really just like snotty-nosed children complaining all the time and hoping God's going to come fix the whole thing. And I talked about that issue in one of my previous blogs. When you're eating meat raw, you need to be much more careful. You know, I was raised on a farm. We could eat our animals. My father made beautiful ground beef with onions and Worcestershire sauce, and it was raw. And I used to love eating that stuff. Of course, I didn't know I was allergic to beef and had headaches every day, but it still tasted good. So when you're aware of the animals and you're aware of how they're cared for, then if something happens to you, it points right back to the animals or to some procedure in the farming process, and it's a form of feedback for the farmer. The farmer usually eats his own food. So if you're going to eat raw meat, one, remember you're going to need a healthy immune system, because anytime you're eating raw foods, your risk of parasite infection goes through the roof, period. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It just means you need to study what's in my Healing Fungal and Parasites, the Absolute Essentials DVDs, or you're going to set yourself up for a lot of problems. And a lot of the people I see going raw food crazy, A, need a skilled therapist or coach to guide them, B, are just displaying another form of fanaticism, and C, often get sick, get parasite infections, and have all sorts of problems because I've coached lots of them. Okay, so if you're going to eat raw meat, one, your red meats in general are safer, but you should sear them at least to kill the surface bacteria. Two, when it comes to things like fish, again, if it's farm raised, you're dealing with toxic, sick animals at large, with rare exceptions. If it's wild caught, it's better. But remember, if you're going to eat raw fish, you better be putting some ginger in your mouth, which is a good anti-parasitic, or other parasitics such as a good solid dose of raw garlic. Or you can also bolster that with hot spices, cayenne pepper, jalapeno, things that have a lot of thermogenic effect because they're anti-parasitic as well. But the next point, birds carry a lot of different bacterial strains. I've seen more people than I can count get sick eating raw chicken or raw duck or raw turkey. So if you're going to eat birds, or particularly birds raw, here's my advice. Just start by cooking it a little bit less, and then a little bit less, and see how your body adapts. And make sure you're getting those birds from a reliable organic food source so that your body can bring in the organisms that come in on the meat and slowly let those bacteria begin to intermingle with your bacterial population. And as your body acclimatizes to that and you start cooking a little bit less and a little bit less, you're far less likely to have a reaction. The reactions often come from a bacterial war that goes on when you bring in foreign bacteria into your body. And it's the same, for example, it's the same thing that happens if you go to a third world country and drink the water. You're getting all sorts of bacteria, parasites, and stuff that your body does not have any immune defenses against. And the next thing you know, you're vomiting out one and shitting out the other, and you know, doesn't make for quite the vacation that you thought you'd have. So slowly and progressively cook it less and less. That way, if you get a reaction, it's not so big and your body's had a time to let the bacterial populations adapt, and you're also far more likely to start getting smaller symptom reactions as you cook less and less, instead of a major reaction, which is what I see people getting quite regularly. Okay? Whatever you're eating raw, you're eating unadulterated vitamin complexes. The whole concept of isolate vitamins has gone way, 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 way wild. You've been fed truckloads of very partial, narrow-focused, narrow-minded information about this does that. when you consider there's something between 6 and 10 billion biochemical reactions a second in the human body, and the number of and the complexity of systems integration in the body, it's bordering on impossible to really do research. For example, if you take a dose of a specific vitamin, you might be monitoring cortisol reactions, or you might be monitoring a specific enzyme reactions, but you'd have to have 1,000 instruments and 1,000 scientists all at the same time monitoring so damn many things to even really get a true picture of the complex but real reactions to any isolate input. So we play these games called science, but while we're playing this game called science, we're also playing another game, and that's not paying attention to how we got sick in the first place. So you take your pill, but you keep living like an idiot, and then that pill doesn't work and you got another one. Most of these problems boil down all to the basic factors of you have to have good soil to make good food, you have to have clean water to have a healthy body, you got to drink enough of it, you got to have a dream bigger than your crisis, or you're always going to be stuck in crisis mode, and even good food just becomes fuel to create a body that mirrors its mental emotional state back to you. A sick mind does not produce a healthy body no matter what you feed it. So when it really gets down to brass tacks, Royal Lee, founder of Standard Process Laboratories, showed us a long time ago, and he was a very good researcher, that vitamins do not act in isolation anywhere in nature. Vitamins occur in complexes. A vitamin complex contains proteins or amino acids, carbohydrates, fats, enzymes, minerals, trace minerals, and nutritional cofactors, of which there are 4 key classes: phenolics, terpenes, alkaloids, and sulfur-containing molecules. These things are all like parts of a watch. If you take any part out of a watch, the watch does not work. If you eat 1,000 sweep hens, does it improve your ability to tell time better? No. Also, if you start dumping any vitamin in there, for example, if you take a high dose of B6, in order for your body to use that, Royal Lee showed that your body now actually has to go scavenge all the other parts of the complex, and while you may, say, get over your night blindness, now you've got skin that itches all over, or brain fog, or any number of things, because you're just taking from Peter to pay Paul. There is an application for specific vitamin isolates, but it should be handled the exact way you handle a drug, and it should be administered by someone that's skilled, and you should be taught to monitor key symptoms so you know when you're getting enough, when you need to stop the therapy, and when you're getting too much, just like any other drug. You got to remember, about 90% of the vitamins sold worldwide are made by Hoffmann-La Roche, a drug company. So the best thing to do is get out of that whole vitamin mentality and get back to the roots of the issue. And if you're going to take vitamins, in my opinion, unless you're being guided by a skilled therapist that really knows what they're doing, or a doctor, you should be eating whole food organic vitamins, such as those sold by New Chapter and a few other places, Standard Process. There's a few called Ultralife has first generation organic vitamins. There's many places, but now you're eating concentrated high quality foods that are known to have high amounts of a specific vitamin in the complex. For example, if you eat acerola cherries in concentrate, you're getting a complex that is high in bioavailable vitamin C, for example, which is a hell of a lot different than putting piles of ascorbic acid in your body. And yes, there is research that shows high doses of vitamin C helps. But you got to remember that a lot of this research is only looking at certain things, not looking at other things. And it's also used on sick people to get a specific shift, but without awareness to the other problems it could be causing, and without awareness to the actual etiology of the dysfunction of the disease in the first place. How much vitamin C does it take to get over a negative daddy complex? How much vitamin C does it take to get over false dreams about being a millionaire when the most money you've ever made is $35,000 a year and you can barely keep your job, etc., etc.? So there's a lot of real issues that are getting overlooked with all the so-called research, and it becomes dogma. It becomes like a religion, and it's not working very well. So, in a nutshell, what part of a watch tells time? The whole damn thing. Take a piece out, you got a dysfunctional watch. To use it, you got to gather parts from somewhere else in your body. If you're not eating those watch parts on, then you will develop deficiencies somewhere else. If you want to read about that, read the book The Real Truth About Vitamins and Antioxidants by Judith DeCava. She gives you a great overview in there. All of her books are good. Raw food was shown by Fritz Albert Popp to have a much more coherent, energetic photon emission. He showed that by measuring photon emission from organic versus non-organic plants, that there was more light and more coherent light coming out of organic food than there was in commercially raised food. And remember, coherent light means you're eating something that adds order to your body. In a living system, energy is measured not only by work potential, but by the capacity to maintain order. Many athletes, for example, dose themselves up on sugar and coffee. Those are forms of usable energy, but they are not likely to maintain or bring the energy and information as a package to help maintain order. But if you're eating real food, i.e. raw food, you're bringing in light. Light has a massive capacity to carry energy and information, just like water does. So if you're eating something that's bringing coherent energy and information into your body, well, naturally it's going to facilitate the creation of coherence and therefore balanced use and balanced recreation of your own structure, your own body-mind structure. The energy is experienced largely in the body, not only as work capacity, but emotion, motion, energy moving. So we want to be aware that food is a source of energy and information, which is also life force. Okay? Water, when you're eating raw food, you're getting high quality water from organic soils, and the water also, like light, has an almost infinite capacity to carry energy and information, particularly information. So if you're using food that came from commercially farmed soils and the water in the food was toxic to begin with, and the microorganism population is deficient, then they're not going to do the handiwork of changing the water environment, which they can do. You're going to get concentrations of toxins in the water. You're going to get, remember, the water carries the energy and information. So you're going to carry a homeopathic dose of very, very toxic energy and information. So these are, things that we need to be thinking about, because not thinking about them equals this: humanity dying with all their PhDs and degrees in nutrition. I mean, go to any nutrition conference or dietetics conference and it looks like an obesity conference. How much more evidence do you need of expertise? Remember, an expert is someone who knows more and more about less and less until they know absolutely everything about nothing. Experts need to be used like tools in a toolbox, but you need a wise man to teach you how it all works together. And that's usually where experts have to go to get help for their diseases too. Okay? So we're not only bringing in water as energy information, but we're bringing in a good source of healthy hydration. Food should never replace water, yet if you're eating enough raw food, chances are good you won't need to drink as much water, because one, you're bringing water in. Most food, even meat, 70% water. Two, you're bringing in water that isn't toxic. And three, you only need to add water as needed to balance out your physiology. But if you're eating toxic water, then you need more water to decrease the toxins in the water you're consuming, which just creates a problem. Raw food gives you a good dose of fiber, soluble and non-soluble fiber, which is extremely important for many things, but detoxifying the body, keeping the small intestine and large intestine healthy. The body has to have fiber to work against. Many people today have problems with constipation one of the reasons is they're not eating enough fiber, so the intestinal tract doesn't have anything to work with, which would be like going to a gym that has nothing in it. I'm going, well, what do I do here? Well, if you're not an expert at calisthenics, you're just going to stand there and stare at the wall and never get any fitness out of it. So we have to remember that there's a significant muscular element from mouth to anus, and you have sphincters, you have peristalsis, you have all sorts of inner exercise that needs to be done. And if we over-exercise the system by eating too much, we exhaust it. If we under-exercise it by eating packaged processed foods, where the body doesn't have to do the work of absorption and working the chyme to break things apart, then your whole inner system gets weak. And you can see it because people look like their organs are falling right out of them. Their abdominal wall's not working, their organs swell up, they get inflamed, they look like sick people. And unfortunately, a lot of athletes look like sick people. We have what I call fit sick people now in the world. They look good on the outside, but to the trained eye, you can see there's all sorts of other issues, and I teach how to identify this stuff in HLC training. In other words, the only reason they're not looking like the rest of the people is because they're exercising themselves to death. And if you take a sick rat and put it on a treadmill and it has to run to get food, the rat will run to eat, but it'll run itself to death. And most people out there without this kind of knowledge who are avid exercisers are literally running themselves to death. And I've got right down the hall, file drawer after file drawer full of I ran myself to death in the name of health, reading too many magazines and believing too many people in white coats that are sick. 6, very important, when you eat raw food, you can taste the earth that it came from. All you got to do is compare any good organic carrot, tomato, pepper, onion, any of them to a commercially farmed one, and one is just like a naked sack of empty water, and the other one has real food. And the healthier you get, the more expansive your awareness of your palate gets. I can tell you all sorts of stuff about animals. You can taste minerals right in the food. You can taste it in the meat. The fats taste different. The smells are different. But more importantly, the higher the quality of the soil, the more dense the nutrition, and the more rapidly you are satiated by a food. One of the reasons we have so much obesity is their satiation centers in the brain never shut off because their body's not getting the essential vitamin complexes and elements that it needs to maintain normal physiology. So you could eat a pile of bread, let's say, and still be functionally starving. So real food gives you what you need to satiate your body so you don't just keep having this urge to eat incessantly, which is one of the biggest reasons for parasite infections. People eat more food than they can actually move through the system. It exhausts the systems. Raw food brings in piles of active, unadulterated enzymes and nutrition that is not obliterated by heat or cooking processes. So one of the things I want to share with you while it's on my mind is many of our molecules, things like hormones, for example, have fit in receptors on cells. So this could be any number of hormones. It could be, there's all sorts of relationships between all of these factors where symmetry, fitting, docking on cells, interacting with each other is very critical. So in nature, these things all fit together, and we are nature in a human form. So if you have a normal fit, then you might have a specific hormone docking on a cell, and you'll see that the fit works. And just like a plug on your computer, if your plug doesn't fit properly, it might fit partially, or you might force it in, but one function might work and 2 other functions are not there or are screwed up. When you heat food in an oven to too high a temperature, and enzymes are debilitated at very low temperatures. Some books say as low as 108, some say 119 degrees, but it's low. So whenever you're cooking meat, you're killing the enzymes in it to the degree that it's cooked, which means you've got to provide the enzymes yourself. And in my experience, the average person today by about 30 years of age is enzyme depleted to the point they need digestive enzymes for support, or they can't regain normal function, and if they keep eating dead food, they keep getting in trouble. Many of the enzymes are super sensitive to heat. Cofactors are heat sensitive. Trace minerals can be heat sensitive. Fats are heat sensitive, and proteins are heat sensitive. And before I show you my little experiment, I've had so many people in lectures I've given all over the world, usually people with degrees in nutrition or something like that, raise their hand and start arguing with me, saying that fats and meats are often not denatured from cooking them. And things like whey protein, they say that's not denatured, but whey turns out to be a highly volatile protein that's extremely heat sensitive. So we got people poisoning themselves with cheap whey protein everywhere. But I just simply have a little means of helping these academically educated people get their head on right. I just say, does anybody in the room have a cigarette lighter? Sure enough, somebody does. Then I just say, pass the cigarette lighter to that person over there that doesn't believe cooking adulterates amino acids and proteins. And I say, now please, Mr. So-and-so, light that cigarette lighter and hold it under your hand as long as you can and tell me what's happening. And they won't even do it. And I ask them, why won't you do that? And they say, it's going to burn me. And I say, yes, what's it going to do to your cells? It's going to obliterate them. It's going to denature them. They will bubble, they will burn, and they will turn into charcoal if you stay there long enough. So it only takes just a couple of ounces of logic. So when you cook food and process food, you take molecules and you do that to them. Then, when it comes to those broken up molecules floating around, now remember, all your hormones have amino acids in them. You have glycoproteins, lipoproteins, and pure amino acid sources of hormones. So once you start denaturing proteins and amino acids, you screw your whole hormonal system up. Now you have unadulterated building blocks, so things don't fit together. So you get all sorts of disablement of normally functioning systems, which leads to all sorts of symptoms, most of which someone gives you a pill that's more toxic than the crap you were eating anyhow, etc., etc., and never really looks at the underlying philosophy or issue. And believe it or not, many of the philosophies behind food dogmas have religious undertones. Many religions have strange and interesting ideas about food. For example, Rastafarians are vegetarians. Many of the Hindu branches or people practicing various forms of Hinduism believe in vegetarianism. Seventh-day Adventists, Christians, practice vegetarianism. Some Buddhists practice vegetarianism, others don't, and there's a big debate on whether Buddha was a vegetarian or not. And I've read many articles and books discussing stuff like that. So now you see we're all the way back to God again. Beliefs about God, beliefs about something that cannot be objectified, beliefs about something that isn't a thing or it can't be a God, beliefs that God has needs for you to eat a certain way. Well, if God has needs, I got news for you. You don't have a God, you just got a kid or an animal or whatever. You don't have God. God's only need is to experience God, and you're it. So try not to obliterate yourself or you'll never wake up. Okay, so then we have to look at season. Foods grown out of season are not as nutritious typically as they would be grown in season for obvious reasons. The environment's not right, so forcing things to grow in the winter in a greenhouse under electric lights certainly will produce a tomato, but it won't be the same tomato. The electricity can never replace the sun. It's just simple as that. And there's many factors I could go into, but it'd make the log too long. But we need to eat with the seasons, because then we're eating the things that our bodies naturally want and crave at that time of the year, because we are nature. We are the seasons. Again, we keep cutting ourselves off. We're above the seasons. We're above the earth. We're above all this stuff. Well, yeah, what goes up must come down. Okay? So when it comes to how to interact with your food, we will remember this diagram from the previous discussion. We have foods that are more containing, or we'll call them yin foods, things that are, for example, you need protein and fat to build cells. So you could say that there's a yin function. They create a container that's relative to body. But there's also foods that are more energetically expressive or more energetically liberating. Eating a piece of steak is going to give you plenty for this, but eating watermelon is going to give you a lot more energy potential, work potential in quickly available carbohydrate sources that may not necessarily be ideal for building a lot of your body. Your cells aren't made too much out of carbohydrate, but there's a lot of fat and protein in there. So we're always getting these different reactions. Some foods cause energy expression above and beyond containment or structure or molecules that we use to build structure. Of course, there's always a component of both. But we always have to look at, if we take food in, for example, if you eat too much meat, you get excessive containment. Joints start to ache. You get too much acid in your body. I can measure urinary indican on a lab test that shows me you can't effectively break it down, and therefore you have a lot of undigested food sitting in your gut, which is party time for funguses and parasites. Massive problem. If you eat too much vegetables, let's say, and your genetics require animal flesh, in other words, if you take an Eskimo and put him on a Rastafarian diet, you're going to have a sick Eskimo. So we always have to look at the fact that our genes have specific requirements for these different types of foods for which there is no book that will tell you you're supposed to have a relationship with yourself and a relationship with your body, minds, and emotions so that you can assess the input. If a doctor hands you a drug and says, come back and see me next week, tell you how you feel, well, you pay attention. And you go back and say, yes, my headaches are gone, my neck feels better, I like this drug. Or you go back and say, my headache's gone, but now I can't shit, I got pimples all over the place, I'm confused, and my dick doesn't work. But I'll keep taking the pill. Watch the commercials on television. My God, come on, who buys that shit? That's a sign of how completely lost people are and how willing they are to give away their life to somebody in a white coat so they don't have to participate. Okay? So every one of us is in this balancing back and forth of balancing yang, energetic expression, yin, containment. Yang out, yin in. Spending, receiving. I can make it long and technical, but it's not necessary. I can teach kids how to do this, and I do all the time, and they're easier to teach than adults. Whenever we bring something in, we consume, we begin to get symptoms. Are we getting symptoms of imbalance? Are we getting a healing reaction? If you start eating raw food or organic food, it's important to differentiate the fact that what is often perceived as an increase in negative symptoms is usually, if you're sure you're eating raw food and organic food, it's usually that you're bringing in the resources, the vitamin complex, to activate detoxification pathways, and your body will start pulling toxins out of fat, it will start pulling heavy metals out, all sorts of stuff. And it's very normal for people when they convert to an organic and or a raw food diet to start going through a detoxification reaction. So write it out. If you got to slow down a little bit, go ahead, but make sure that you're drinking enough water and getting enough breathing and movement to pump the system, or you're going to be like a lot of people that give up. And many people need just that excuse to stop participating in their life and go back to being a child. So as you're eating the food, you're needing to differentiate, am I getting symptoms of imbalance or symptoms of healing? If you're monitoring yourself, you will also have imbalanced symptoms such as changes in your skin, increasing body weight, holding on to water, changes in your body temperature, either making you hot or making you cold, making your skin red, or getting breakouts of little blood vessels around your nose, which is a sign that the immune system's attacking undigested food particles in the capillary beds. You can get joint aches, mental fog, lack of energy, constipation, or constipation oscillating with loose stools, and the list goes on. So whenever we're dealing with imbalanced symptoms, we want to name it, blame it, and tame it, just like we have to do with a dysfunctional story, our own story. Once you recognize that your story, doctors know everything, isn't working, you have to come up with a counter myth. I can't trust doctors, I better start learning to trust myself and only use them as tools in the toolbox. So if you eat, for example, your favorite gluten-free treat that's supposed to be good for you, but every time you eat it, you get inflamed and get pimples, I would encourage you to name that treat pimples and inflammation. Not cookie or brownie, because that lets you keep playing the same game. Then when you reach for it, you say, I'm reaching for a handful of pimples and inflammation and discomfort. Then you can blame it. My shitty skin is partially because I keep eating that damn thing, and then you can tame it. What else could I eat that will satiate me? And pay attention to what it is that's driving you to want to eat that. If you want to eat it because you need energy or because it's sweet, it just indicates that you're not balancing the relationship of food with eyes, which is almost always your primary sources of fat and protein, or food with no eyes, which is higher water foods, higher fiber foods that are usually not cooked, or that don't need to be cooked, that are higher energy foods. And remember, plants can regenerate themselves. You cut a branch off a plant, it grows it back. Animals don't do that. This is why Steiner said, if I had not have been a vegetarian, I probably could have never done the work that I needed to do in my life. But before you vegetarians get all excited, he also said very clearly, nobody should become a vegetarian until it happens naturally. Which means through spiritual practices, you can actually change things, even like your DNA. And before you go crazy saying Paul's crazy, you do some research, because there's plenty of evidence. Healers have shown they can change DNA regularly, and spiritual practices do change DNA and everything about you, including what you need to eat. I'm standing here telling you, I used to be the most carnivorous creature on the planet, and my soul guided me to being a vegetarian for 1 year because I needed to clean out, and I was going through a bunch of spiritual openings that would have not been possible with too much animal flesh. Where you eat an animal, you also eat animal consciousness and animal fear, and it can animalize you, and I can promise you that from lots of clinical experience. So name it. I'm eating my constipation, I'm eating my pimples, I'm eating my fat, I'm eating my fatigue, I'm eating my headache. Then if you keep doing it, you know you don't need to go to a doctor. You need to sit under a tall tree and figure out what your story is and what you really want to create in your life, instead of pimples, fat, and farts, because anyone can do that. The experience that you're looking for when we're digesting, we're in a transformative process. So what was once a sheep is now becoming human. Once was what a carrot now becomes human. And there's an energetic process that liberates the energy and the consciousness and many other factors, the light, the water, the molecules, all have effects on you for as long as they're in your body. So the transformative experience brings a change in your own inner state. So you want to watch, how's my energy once I ate that, particularly in the 1 to 2 hours after eating a meal. How's my mental clarity, my body freedom? Am I more or less inflamed? What's my temperature doing? How's my bowel movements and urine? How's my general sense of comfort? And how's my sense of satiation? Any discrepancy here means you have a ratio issue going on here, or a quality issue, or a quantity issue. Ratio, quality, quantity. Those are the things. And hydration. Ratio, quality, quantity, hydration. Remember, I teach an echo concepts, energy, chemistry, hydration, organisms. And whatever you do out there, it is echoed back to you. If you eat off a healthy organic farm, the echo brings that back to you. But if you're eating from commercial farms and drinking garbage water, it is mirrored back as an echo in you. And then your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and behaviors become an echo back to the environment. And if you just look at what we've done to the environment and are doing to the environment, you can see that, well, it's pretty safe to say that as we've eaten more and more garbage, we've become more and more disconnected with what we're actually creating in our lives and keep on trying to go to doctors to medicate the symptoms of, you know, illness of the mind, really. The outcome is, am I improved or am I worsening? That's pretty simple. That's how it works. I'm either getting better or I'm not, or I'm confused and I need help. And if I'm not getting better, I need help. That's what holistic lifestyle coaches are for in my system. That's what naturopathic physicians are for. That's what any physician who is practicing real medicine is for. And there's plenty of good doctors out there. I'm not anti-doctor. I'm just anti-silliness, no matter what profession it is. So in closure then, for my little short lesson on why you should take holistic lifestyle coach training and why I highly recommend this book, DVD, Simply Raw. This is a great DVD that shows that you can actually reverse type 1 and type 2 diabetes with a well-prepared raw food diet. Now, I would have done this experiment differently because they were really working with only one of the 4 doctors, Dr. Diet. Some work on the other ones, but it's still a great documentary. Highly recommend everyone watch it, especially if you don't believe in raw food. Okay? So, some of the things we can do are eat as much raw food as you possibly can. If you start getting discomfort from it, gassy, bloaty, it usually means you're bringing in more fiber than you can handle. Just back it down a little bit. It's all about the ratio, eyes to no eyes. It's that simple. Go for the highest quality food you can possibly get. And if you're one of these people that says, I can't afford to eat organic, I tell you what, can you afford surgery? Can you afford to be chained to drugs for the rest of your life? And can you afford to drive the car you're driving? Etc., etc. I've had to tell many people, sell your damn Porsche and buy some food and get yourself a Volkswagen or something more realistic for your budget. But when people are living above and beyond their means for social approval or for status, but they can't afford to live well, you've got evidence that you're programmed by corporations to live like foolish people, and you're highly profitable to the drug and medical industry. Name it and tame it. Don't name it this food or that food. Name it my pimples, my farts, my distended gut, my headache, my soggy this, my runny nose, my bad breath. Then it becomes a little bit more obvious as to who is largely responsible for creating the problems you keep trying to sell to other doctors and therapists. No fixed diets. I don't teach any fixed diet. I've never seen a single fixed diet work for more than 2 or 3 months or half a year and then all hell breaks loose. I've seen people that got cured of cancer through veganism and vegetarianism only 5 years later end up right on my doorstep with cancer again and completely shocked when I showed them that they're usually starving for protein and they're having a hormonal breakdown, and I've been able to help those people heal so fast it made everybody's head spin. But usually there's this big emotional crisis of transformation because they're still addicted to the concept that that's the diet that cured me. No, that was because you need to be detoxified, and you were. You needed to eat higher quality protein and water sources. You did. You cut down eating all the toxic meat. You decreased the toxic burden. You did what you needed to do for a while. But remember, what works for any given period of time may not work tomorrow, and that's why we always have to be in a state of awareness. If you're not aware of what you're creating within yourself, and if you don't get rid of food dogmas, you will always mirror back the dogma to yourself and want someone else to fix it. So there's a lot a very simple, highly practical education for you in my multimedia ebook, The Last 4 Doctors You'll Ever Need, How to Get Healthy Now. My book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, gives you a series of questionnaires, helps you identify where you need to make changes, shows you right what to do. There's even mind maps, so if you're in a rush, you can read a chapter very, very quickly by reading the mind maps. You could probably go through the whole book and get the key points in 2 or 3 hours if you're paying attention, not just appeasing your superficial intellect. My 1, 2, 3, 4 for overcoming addiction, obesity, and disease is a much deeper process for healing mental, emotional, and physical problems. So those are some tips. Those help you easily anywhere at a distance without going to a course. But when you're ready for more comprehensive training, go to the Institute, chekinstitute.com, CHEK institute.com. Look at the schedule for Holistic Lifestyle Course Coaching Level 1. We teach them all over the world. It's a 3-day class that will change your life and your family's life. And then when you've got that mastered, love to see an HLC2 where you learn how to apply your proven, authentic mastery that you wear to class. You're ready to learn how to share that with other people as a guide and a coach for their well-being. Thanks for joining me today. I'm sure I'll have something soon for you, and I look forward to your feedback. And remember, everybody, I cannot do personal therapy on YouTube. I answer the questions I can with the time I have, but if you need personal coaching, go see a Chek Holistic Lifestyle Coach. They're all over the world. Chek practitioners all over the world. You can find them right on our website. Thanks for joining me today. I am Paul Chek. I'll see you soon.